problem.
Welcome everyone to It's All About the Benjamins Financial Literacy Series. I am Jamela Swift, a real estate agent, 16-year veteran in New York City with Keller Williams NYC. Today's show is called Baby, I Got Your Money. I can't resist this, Sean, but Baby, I Got Your Money. I can't resist. My guest for today is Mr. Sean Linda of the highly ranked podcast, Two Black Guys with Good Credit. That is so awesome.
Listened.
Oh, yes. I loved it. It was in my head all night. Now, Sean, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for taking the time out to talk to me today. Please
No
tell
problem.
me tell us about your podcast and then also your Wall Street background and how you ventured off into real estate.
We wanted to do I have a nonprofit that targeted more the youth. It's called Financially Clean.
Yep.
And what would happen was we would teach at high schools, at youth centers, and an assortment of different places. And the adults would always come up to us after class and be like, we listened to your class. You know, do you have something like that for the adults? Can you do something like this for us? And we really wanted to make it youth focused. And we wanted to then we thought about like, okay, listen, I'm all about serving my community and doing the best I can for my community, my gift to my community. And so I wanted to do something in the proactive arena when it comes to financial literacy. I really found like in our community, it's more of a reactive thing. Oh, your credit sucks. We're going to help you fix your credit. Oh, we're going to help you do this. Oh, and I look at it, I always believe like, the best medicine for health is to exercise and diet, right? So I look at it the same way. So the best practice is to instill healthy practices and kind of take a proactive approach to it rather than like a reactive approach.
Right.
So what we did was we came up with the idea of doing a podcast. Actually, one of my friends, actually I was dating at the time, she invited me to an open mic podcast. And it was just something that I found I just couldn't believe how engaged the audience was, how much they loved it. It was such a simple format of just coming up and telling a story. And I was like, wow, this arena is new. And I didn't think at that time, like 6 years ago, we as African Americans are really penetrating that podcast market as we should. I don't even think we're there yet now. So I was like, this is a new platform to kind of speak freely. And, I believe in positive energy and doing something out there that to me is positive rather than like just trying to sell yourself and get likes, So I said, let's come up with this idea of a podcast. And then I was thinking of obviously finance is my background. I have a friend that lives in LA. His name is Arlington, and he's an artsy guy. He has a store in Malibu, California. We went to college together, but we're always debating. When I want to buy real estate, he wants to buy art kind of thing. So and I'd go out to LA a lot, and we'd always have late night conversations about finance. So he's like, let's just bring that to light.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how the idea came up. The name, I just wanted something that, in the podcast world, there's like over 100,000 podcasts out there. So one of the, differentiating factors, you have to give reason for people to click. Why are they going to open up yours versus somebody else's?
Right.
So I wanted something that was catchy. My same friend, again, we were just out having breakfast. I was like, I need a name. And she just called it Two Black Guys with Good Credit. And I was like, yeah, that works. So we did it.
Uh-huh.
And I think partly what we tried to deliver is something where you don't know what the expectations are. When people laugh, when they tell me the name, I always ask, so what are you laughing at? Then they kind of pause and think about it, So I was hoping with the name, they're like, okay, we don't even know what to expect from this podcast. But when you click on it, we exceed your expectations. You're actually getting like really resourceful information delivered in a way that is comforting. It's not overwhelming. Kind of, we make financial literacy, we try to, quote unquote, dumb it down as best as we can.
Right.
So the common person can understand it. And that's done, it's allowed people from, the crazy thing is from all different walks of life, emailing us and thanking us. I like to call us kind of the Cosby Show of financial literacy, in a meaning that it was traditionally an African-American family, lawyer, doctor, but the whole world embraced it, So that's the kind of the same mission I try to have with the podcast.
So, okay, the one thing that I really enjoyed about listening to your podcast is that it was very lighthearted, fun-spirited, but informative. There's you, your partner, Matt, is it? Was it?
Yeah, Matt. There's four of us. Arlington is still part of it. He's producing. He comes on some shows, but it's Matt, myself, Dion. Yeah.
Yes. So Dion provides historical reference.
Facts kind of brings it
Facts.
together. Correct. Right.
Yes. So that was really cool. Now, the reason why you are here today, now your background is in finance. You've worked on Wall Street,
I did.
and then you ended up becoming a real estate investor where you bought up all of these buildings in Brooklyn. Is it just Brooklyn or is it New York City?
I dabbled in other arenas, but I mean, I'm do or die Brooklyn. I love
Okay.
Brooklyn. So I kind of stayed in Brooklyn. I just felt the returns were great. I just like the numbers and I just like the buildings. But I've dabbled in other places to be quite honest, but Brooklyn's always done me well in so many different ways.
So basically, you are in a very good position where you're financially um, abundant. But I guess maybe that was not enough for you. You've taken it another step further to actually share the wealth of resources that you have back with the community. And you've created Financially Clean, a program that teaches children the art of finances and financial literacy. So can you tell us what that program entails, what inspired you to do this, and also is CLEAN an acronym, or what's the meaning behind the name? Why did you choose that name?
Well, first of all, I just believe, we're only in this world for a short time. And I think our gift, we have two real purposes: to leave something for the next generation and to pass on what you learn. I
Right.
think if you die with everything you've learned, you've lived like a very selfish life. Like my father was a musician. He had 9 kids and none of us know how to play a musical instrument. I think that in itself kind of inspired me. Like we all have a special gift and it's your duty, your responsibility to the universe to share that gift, no matter how small or how big it would be, and pass it on. And if you don't do that, then you've not fulfilled your life purpose. And, I was initially teaching my kids these things,
Mhm.
but I think, hello, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
But I think just as big as my commitment is to my kids, my commitment to my community is just as big. They go hand in hand. Like I'm a black man and I'm also a father, and I don't put one ahead of the other. So as I was teaching them, I realized that this is something that needs to go beyond them. And I'm not a person scared to share everything I know. I'm not scared to get naked, and I think we need to do that. Like if you're a creative person, teaching your skill set is not going to hurt you in any way. It'll only grow you. Like for me, sharing everything in the most truthful way, good and bad, because as much as I've done well, I've had a lot of hurdles, and I share them openly.
Mhm.
So that has created and opened up so many doors for me and so many opportunities. Hence why I'm even meeting with you. If I were to be conservative in what I say and be restrictive, then the doors wouldn't have opened. So if you sit and have a conversation with me, I'm not withholding anything when it comes to like business and what I did and the formula of my success, because I think it's important to share. And I'm just confident that even if quote unquote nobody really steals your ideas, but if quote unquote somebody steals my idea, I'm creative enough that I can continue in what I'm doing. So
Right.
when it comes to finance, it's like a fearless thing, and clean came out of that. Like, people coming up to me, my community, young kids. Like, I mean, I grew up in government housing,
Mhm.
and it's really, and I teach in inner city schools, and I've met so many diamonds in the rough, like so many. It's unbelievable, these kids. And really, it's just that they don't have the guidance. There's the only difference between them and somebody on the Upper East Side is guidance. And it's not one smarter than the other. And I don't believe in that theory anyhow. I believe we're all smart. It's just some people are taught while others are not, or some people are doing extra work while others are not. And the
Mhm.
kids that I've met kids that I've never, I've taught over 5,000 kids, and I can tell you, and I've taught juvenile, delinquent. I've taught every kind of kid. Kids are in and out of trouble, and I've never ever had a bad student. I've never heard anybody speak out loud, be rude, just not, just no, no. I've never had to kick anybody out of a class. Nothing. Once you engage them and you give them, you make it relatable to them and their environment and their community, they connect and they get it and they want to learn more.
Right.
So
So now
yeah.
your program is you teach in Brownsville, but is it also
I
throughout the
teach
state?
anywhere. I teach
Anywhere?
anywhere. I'm open. Yeah, as long as people call us from. I've taught in Canada. I've taught in the Bronx. I've taught in the city. I've taught all through Brooklyn. I mean, I love teaching in Brownsville just because I can connect with the kids there. But I mean, anywhere that the opportunity presents itself, I'll go.
Now,
I would love to go teach in Chicago. You know, it's one of
oh
my
yeah,
goals.
that is definitely needed there. So now, is this a one-shot deal where it's it's a day workshop, or is it over a course?
Uh, I don't believe in that. I don't like when I hear people, like I've seen in the like banks and cities have programs for finance, and what they're teaching our community to me is wrong on so many levels. They're just teaching them how to save and budget. That's not financial literacy. Financial literacy, that's like a defensive mechanism, but you have to also be aggressive out there. You have to know about real estate, know how to purchase, know how to grow wealth, know how to leverage your money. And I was teaching one time in front of this program that was out there, a mentor program where like Wall Street guys would go into inner city and mentor young kids. And I spoke in front of them and the mentees, and they stood up. They were like, "Why are you teaching this?" One guy said, "Why you should be teaching them about saving, not about this type of investment. You know, they're just gonna get into credit problems and trouble." And I'm like, and you know, why are you encouraging them to have a credit card at 18? They should wait. Like telling me that our community is not smart enough to do these things. Just teach them the basics about saving and budgeting, and they'll be fine. And anybody knows that you're never going to become wealthy off savings and budgeting. If you're not know how to invest correctly and how to invest effectively, then you're never going to achieve wealth. And it really, getting rich and getting wealth are two different principles. And so when I'm hearing these kids that want to learn, and once they get it and they click, and you can tell you create a movement, you create a change in mindset, you create a shift. You know, these kids go home and have these conversations with their parents. And I've had parents, one parent got her real estate license because of her
Wow.
daughter coming, teaching us the class. You know, parents will call me and ask me questions because my son keeps saying this. And my daughter, I had a guy that was, you know, he was a hustler, he was a booster, like
Uh-huh.
credit cards and all that kind. He went from that to looking at real estate, sending me clippings, you know, gives me chills like of different real estate. Went to even explain their community, like once again, like who's coming into Brownsville now and taking over, and explain like what's going on around and the dynamics of what's happening. You know, they get it and they see it, and they see, because these kids are smart. You just gotta really, you gotta put certain things in their head and they connect and it clicks with them.
So what do you do? I mean, because okay, let's say you come in and how
Well,
do
first of all, you build that relationship. Like
right?
in anything you do, it's relationship building. You can't just come in and teach young people a one-time financial literacy class and expect to affect their lives. You have to build a sense of comfort with them and get them feeling comfortable and engaging. And so so one thing, it's a 12-week program, because
Oh,
in that 12 weeks, we're changing a mindset and something that's been engraved from their parents. Tell them, don't answer the phone when the creditors call, max out
right.
your credit cards. And like, you have to change all those things that they've been hearing
Uh-huh.
throughout their lives, that their neighbors do, and people that try to, you know, like, I always believe like in social programs, I don't judge anybody that has to be on government assistance, because who am I to judge? But understanding that that is a bridge, right? It's not a long-term thing, because eventually those systems begin, once you're in the system, to begin to work against you. But then you have communities that just focus on getting over on that system. Oh, I heard they got this program. I heard they're giving out this for free. Oh, you can go get WIC checks. You can go get that. And that is what is, that creates a mindset that, hey, I'm always gonna look to get over on this system. But if you're looking at it as a bridge, okay, for this short period of time, I had to get WIC, I had to get government assistance, and whatever the case may be. But it's not a long-term plan, because it begins to work against me, you know. And so once we start spending and the time with them, when we take them through, so clean, like I said, it's not a word, it's an acronym. So we spend
Mhm.
5 weeks on credit,
Mhm.
really breaking down credit, how it's used, how it works, how it can build wealth. And then we spend a couple weeks on L is learning to live without, where we talk about wants and needs.
You said learning to live without.
Yeah, so we talk about wants and needs, and getting them to understand like a want versus a need. I want this, or do I need it? And I'm not, you know, I like materialistic things. I'm not going to tell, I'm not this hoarder or saver that no, I believe, but I reward myself
Right.
when I plan it out. I find ways in which to get it the best way I can, and then I give it as myself as a reward, like I earned it. And it's not like I don't really impulse shop for like high end things. I think them through before I buy. Like I just bought like a new wardrobe set, bedroom set in my room, and it just delivered this morning. But that was like 3 years of thinking about it, planning, and I'm like,
Uh,
okay, it's COVID time, things are on sale, things are discounted, you know. I think now's the time to strike the iron. So I finally pulled the trigger after 2, 3 years of like thinking it through my head and looking, and you know, and not just buying cheap stuff. I don't believe in that either. I buy stuff of value, but I try to do it um, in a smart way. So L is learning to live without. E is education, and
Okay.
it's really tying in education to wealth, letting them know, like a lot of kids in the community will think that they don't need to go to school, they don't have to go to school, but putting in it from a financial perspective, letting them know that if you leverage your education, gives you higher earning. Like, the analogy of, the former president Barack Obama and you. We all have, how many hours does Barack have in a day versus how many hours do you have in a day? We all have 24 hours. It's what you do with that time and how you maximize that time. So you could work at McDonald's and make $15 an hour, or you could you just make it simple. You could graduate high school, do 4 years of undergraduate, and then do 2 years of like post-secondary masters, or even go to law school, and your earning potential goes from $15 an hour to what I have to pay my lawyer, which is like $550 an hour, by just committing a few extra years of school. And then when you break the math out for them and let them see it, they connect and they be like, okay, I know why, instead of like everybody saying go to school, get good grades, but you draw it out for them and let them see like earning potentials versus not going to school. And then attention to detail is knowing about your branding and how you carry yourself, how you represent yourself, your social media stamp, knowing that everything you put on social media, everything you put out there is a reflection of you. Like everything I post, I ask myself, am I okay with my kids seeing this? It's really simple. That's what I do. And when they like they're now in my 12 and 15, they now like follow me on Instagram. And when they like those are the most likes I look forward to when my kids like my stuff. And they
So
do
this
consistently.
is the A you're talking about in clean. Can you repeat?
E.
No.
Attention to detail, correct. So
Okay.
it's about knowing your brand, knowing your worth, and knowing what, every employer goes through social media now. All right, let me not speak every, but I would say over 90% of when an employer is looking to hire you, he's going to check your social media. So it's about understanding that like your social media is your footprint. I tell people all the time, like this generation, when we pass away now, people are not going to go under the bed and find old photo albums of you. They're going to be watching you, remembering you by your social media, by your Facebook page you'll go on, by your Instagram, and that's going to be your legacy. So how you reflect yourself on there is how people are going to remember you as. And if you want people to remember you in a certain light, then you have to be mindful of what you put out there. And kids don't get it because they just don't understand, like, those things are there for life. The sad part is you have a lot of Black African Americans that commit crimes when they're young and they become better person. But when you Google their name, it comes up.
Right. Well, I will say this. I'm so grateful that social media was not around when I was in college.
Oh my God.
I'm so glad.
Listen, I'm on my high school social media. My best friend and I don't know where this girl found this picture, but it's like my best friend and we were hugging, and it looks like we were like, it was intimate. I'm like, I don't even know how this picture got taken. And my friend went berserk. He's a father of 3. He's a high position in the government. He traced this girl down, called Facebook, made the picture get removed. And I have no clue where this picture came from, how it arrived, how we even posed for this picture in high school. And he went berserk for this girl and she wouldn't take it down. So yeah,
Wow.
attention to detail. And then N is no shame in your game. And that's really just believing in yourself. And I don't think anybody has the right to tell people what to do and what not to do. I mean, if you want to be a musician, so be it. Like, life is short. Like, do what your purpose is, do what you feel. But just having a plan around it, understanding it as a business, and knowing that, yeah, I can be a musician, but I can also be a landlord to subsidize my true passion. I don't believe in living a life doing what you don't want to do just because you had to do it. I believe in doing what you choose to do, and let's work on a plan that'll allow you to do that, and say what you want to do with pride. Like, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to do it, and this is my plan. Like, I'm a landlord. Do I enjoy being a landlord? No. Do I enjoy? No, I don't. But I do it because I know what it brings to me and how the life that it brings.
It's bringing
And I want people
options. It's giving you options.
Absolutely.
So now let me ask you, over the course of 12 weeks, do you have an exercise where the children that you're teaching, do they open up a bank account, or how are you teaching them how to account for their money?
We teach them budgeting, right? And that's part of wants versus needs and attention to detail and so forth. So we teach them about budget, we teach them about credit, but do we physically have them open up accounts? No, we don't. But more or less, it's more strategic, the program.
Okay.
And I think what happens is organically they want to do these things anyhow. Like I've
Mhm.
never had we have reviews all the time every after we're done the program. And that's the thing too with a lot of these financial literacy programs, these people they want like these hard analytics. And I'm not trying to go that route. They want these analytics like how many of them open up an account, how many of them have a balance, how many of this. And I think you're missing the whole mission once again if you start going in that direction and you're letting those analytics prove your success. The success is when a student tells me her mother gets a real estate license. The
Right.
success is when a student tells me she knows a credit score range between 350 and 850. The success is when she knows she's going to go to college, she's not going to max out her credit card. The success is when she knows what a balance transfer is. The success is when she knows the difference between commercial real estate and residential real estate. The
Right.
success is when she's looking at what she's putting out there in social media. So I don't get caught up in those analytics because that's
Mhm.
not, to me, the right tracking mechanism.
So, what would your advice be to someone who is watching this video, but let's say they're in, I don't know, Inglewood, California right now? They can't actually get to you. What tips would you give them in terms of teaching their children the value of money, how to manage the money, and just to become more financially literate?
Well, I would say one, go to my podcast. We have like over 70 something episodes.
Okay.
If you start from episode one and you work your way up, it'll change your mindset. Um,
Mhm.
and reach out to me. I get emails all the time. I try to answer every single one.
Mhm.
Um, we've been fortunate enough where people have brought us to, different places across the United States to provide the program. But to me, from a one-on-one with your parent, a parent, like even with my kids, I don't believe in when the day I pass, my kids are just going to then tap into my account, then see what daddy's worth, then understand real estate. And they have to kind of learn it all on themselves. Like, I don't hide things from them. There's just so much money's in this account, there's so much money's in that account. Like, I tell them all the time, I'm just your tenant, the buildings that I own. You are the owners. I am your tenant.
Right.
And so I empower them from young and engage them. I think, we as parents and even listen to their recommendations. I think a lot of my grandma, my aunts, my not my grandparents, but the controlling people in my family, they didn't share. They didn't share information.
No.
They waited. You had to kind of then take up everything after they're gone and try to figure it out on your own.
Right.
And I just think that's crap. I think the more open you can be with your kids, let them know what a bill. Like I tell my kids all the time, like when I get my property assessment every year, they open up the letter, open it up, tell me what it says,
Uh-huh.
read it to
So
me.
you're teaching them. You're transparent with them, and you're right. Our generation, we didn't grow up learning. Well, I don't know about your family, but with mine, money was very secretive.
Absolutely. No, of course.
Yeah,
And
I'm
that's what
from the
we're
South.
conditioned to
We
think.
didn't talk about this.
It's horrible. Like, and why? Why are you scared to tell your kids like what you're worth, what's in the account, what's not in the account? Why is it a secret to your kid? I don't understand the theory behind it, so I choose not to be that way.
Right. So, and then also, okay, now let's say I'm just trying to figure out what a day would be like with the kids. Okay, you go over credit. You said learn to live without.
You relate it with real life experiences,
Right.
good, the bad, and the ugly. Everybody has a credit experience. Everybody has a budgeting experience. Everybody, when they keep lights on the house, you break it down, not just turn off the lights. Like this, it comes with a bill. Look at what I pay in January. Look what I'm paying in February. Look what I pay when you keep the lights on.
Hmm.
Kids need to see things. We need to be able to relate to things.
Hmm.
Once they can relate to things, then you can teach effectively. And we just gotta then sit them down in front of a blackboard or a whiteboard nowadays and just bring up definitions of credit, definitions of budgeting, put up a savings account and a checking account. It's not gonna really sink to them. But if
Hmm.
you make it relatable to their lifestyle, and every child has experienced somewhat of a different type of lifestyle. Like um, my oldest son loves basketball,
Hmm.
and I try to make a lot of basketball analogies for him, so it registers to him. Like the documentary on Michael Jordan that's playing right now. Like I'm like, you want to get good? Look at what he's doing.
Hmm.
Look at how he's like. They just a guy put out someone showing that he scored more points by not shooting threes versus shooting threes. And I was like, I keep trying to tell my son the same way. And like this, your game plan doesn't have to be what all your friends are doing. Your
Right.
game plan can be something different and achieve success. You don't have to be the high scoring guy. You can be the best defensive guy. And it comes like that in real estate and finance. Like, look at what you're doing, understand your path. And my kids, knock on wood, I see it. I see like how they think. They collect rent checks with me. They help me make deposits. I see, you know, with kids, like they're not gonna come out openly and tell you like, "Oh, I get it now, daddy, let me do." But then they'll make like some sort of comment out there like, "Oh, wow." Like my middle son, he was like, I'd wake him up to do workouts with me in the morning.
Mhm.
Hate it. And he's back at his mom's house, and he called me this week and he was like, "What's that app that we do exercising with, daddy?"
Uh-huh.
I'm like, "Whoa, you got it."
Right.
And that's how it is with kids. It's like, don't look for that instant gratification. They may sulk their shoulders, bow their head. They may not want to go in the building. They may not want to do certain things, but eventually you'll see like by a query or by a reaction one day that, whoa, they actually got it.
They're absorbing it. Now, one of the things I really appreciate about this conversation is that you are teaching your children how to own and operate the buildings that they are going to eventually inherit. A lot of times you see people lose their properties, and it could be a property that's been in their family for generations because the children were not taught to appreciate the property. They weren't taught how to operate. There's a system to owning properties, and then ultimately they lose it. They don't know
Because
the
it's
value of it.
because they're not taught cash flow.
Right.
Like, I'm 48, and now it's not really about, you know, if how much money I have. It's more about managing my cash flow, and they don't
Exactly.
understand that real estate brings cash flow.
Hmm.
And we're taught once again the wrong things. If you really like, I'm not worried about how much my buildings are worth per se. I'm worried about what my cash flow is. I know the number that I would like to have as a comfortable monthly cash flow, and once I obtain that, then I'm good. And real estate allows you to get that cash flow that you're looking for. And
Hmm.
then if you understand about the equity game, pulling out equity and how to use it effectively, you only need to buy one building in life, and then from that you can buy 20, 30. That's how the Jewish people do it, and I think it's a very effective. And I can't I say I commend them, I applaud them for doing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you understand cash flow, there's no way. Like when I first was into real estate, I was flipping because I wasn't taught. I can buy a building for 200,000, sell it for 280. I was like, whoa, this is
Mhm.
great. I can buy it for 300 and sell it for 500, 800 and sell it for 1.1. I was like, this is great. And now, and this is one thing I teach again, like I wouldn't recommend flipping. I'd recommend holding your assets. But, I wasn't taught about cash flow and about
Mhm.
real estate in that way. I learned through trial and error. If I kept every building I sold, I'd be that much further. But it's okay because they all have a strong story behind them.
Right. Now you know. So now going back to teaching the children in school, what age range are you working with? Are they in elementary or are they high school or
Well,
college?
my sweet spot is like I like to teach them a year before they graduate high school and then come and do a refresher again just before they go away to college. I've
Mhm.
taught like middle school. It's a different type of teaching, but my sweet spot is like give me them in their junior year, because then you're starting to drill the message, and then you do like a refresher. It doesn't have to be 12 weeks, it can be like 2, 3 weeks or whatever. Refresher in their senior graduating year, because the goal is I want them to go to college understanding credit, because that's when a lot of people fall into problems and they're always trying to be catch up from credit, and understand that, yes, college tuition can be expensive, but there are many ways in which you can get grants, you can get scholarships, it doesn't have to be academic based, it doesn't have to be athletic based. My godfather was part of a lodge, and I got my nephew to get a grant every year from my godfather's lodge, which a
Wow.
lot of people don't apply for certain grants. There's opportunity. You don't have to be an academic or an athletic person to get certain grants out there. There's a lot of things available. Like I always encourage them, like, oh, how many guys want to work at McDonald's or KFC? And somebody put their hand down, it doesn't pay enough, whatever, but they have great grants. And if you're an employee there, you have an inside scoop. So if you work there over the summer months, you get a $5,000 grant from
Mm.
KFC. what's your real hourly wage now? It's not $15 an hour, maybe $60 an hour because you got this $5,000 grant to help you with your tuition. So
Mhm.
just being strategic about it, smart. Working over there for summer months may help you when you go away to school.
Mhm.
So,
And it's good that you're having this conversation with them, because I remember when I went to school, I went to Syracuse University. So I was
oh, that's
so
Reno Ramey.
excited. What'd you say?
That's Reno Ramey.
Yes,
Our
yes.
mutual friend. Our mutual friend.
Yes, yes. Now, I was so excited. I landed on campus and I was just ready to party and have a good time. And then here come the credit card companies. They
Yeah,
saw me
exactly.
coming. They preyed on all of us. And I graduated with a judgment from a credit card. And fortunately, that was a wake up call for me as a young woman to start really taking this a little bit more seriously. And what I was taught from my family, I received money from my grandmother. I think it was maybe like $500 as a graduation gift. And, I said, you know what? I'm going to take this money and pay off this credit card debt. But my family was like, oh, go and buy yourself something nice. And I'm glad I did not listen to them, because who knows? I mean, it eventually would have come off of my credit anyway, but it started the wheels turning towards, just really respecting my credit. So
Absolutely.
I'm so happy that you are having this conversation with the students. Now, what about internships? Like, once they're done, once they've completed your program, do you point them in the direction to, start interning with certain companies while they're in
Yeah, because to me, an internship is an in, which we don't understand. Like giving your service away for free when you're young creates is an in to get
right?
into the company that you want to work for and what you want to do. So yes, absolutely. And there's a cost of learning, regardless of how you look at it.
Mhm.
Even if you don't want to go to college, there's a cost of learning. It's just you paying in a different way. So I'm a huge fan of internship. Yeah.
And what about the parents? Now, you're teaching the children how to respect their finances, but what if their parents are totally illiterate? I mean, nothing against, my family, but they just didn't know. They didn't know. They've gotten better as years have progressed.
We've had a program where we did like parent and student,
Hmm.
which was really well. And like I said, I haven't had a bad student, regardless of level of education. Everybody understands money, especially if you've been in this country, America. You've been scarred. Like you can't, even if you don't know how to read and write, you've gotten a bill that you have to pay. You may earn $100 a week, and 60 of it has to go to rent, and 30 of it has to go to this bill. Like you get it. So it doesn't, like, this is impartial. It doesn't matter. And I remember a lady, her husband worked for NASA, and she did a lot of philanthropy work. They lived actually on Park Avenue, Manhattan, and
Hmm.
her brother, totally totally tore through her parents' wealth. And she asked me to speak to him. He was
Wow.
horribly financially. So it doesn't really discriminate, you know.
Right. Right.
Just
So
some people have greater resource and access.
exactly. Well, I know you have a program going on currently. It started about 2 weeks ago, right? It's a 4-week program.
We have one more session left, correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm working with my good friend, hopefully the next mayor of New York City, Eric Adams.
Yes.
Really, really awesome guy, for a politician, I can tell you, and I'm not trying to plug him in any way because I'm not even a huge fan of politics, but he's sincere in his actions.
Mhm.
I can tell you that. So we wanted to do something for for this experience, what's happening in COVID, because I believe, people are sitting on the sideline waiting things for the quote unquote go back to normal, but that doesn't happen in life. You know, life changes, life evolves. Sometimes it hits us more in the face than it does, like it's doing now. But there's got to be a new norm, and I truly believe, like, in this time, like I'm coming out better than I did going into COVID.
Mhm.
And I think everybody has the opportunity to come out building up your self brand, building up your brand. And like this time, I'm aggressive to the people that I reach out to, people that I think that would never respond to me or reply to me. I reach out to them because they're at home like you and I,
Exactly.
and they're looking for things to do. And if you don't think this is probably the most optimal time to network there's ever been in the last 20 years, you have a real opportunity. to get to people that you didn't have a likelihood of getting to them. They may not give you the results you're looking for right away because of the pandemic, but you can plant the seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, you can then leverage that when things get, when things change. But this pandemic, this COVID-19 is part of our new norm. And, no economist, no politician, myself can tell you the real end date. And if there is an end date, to how it will be. But things will remain in a pandemic state of mind for a long time, even if it's just even as simple as when you get on a plane. I don't think there'll be a time for a very long time where we're not required to wear a mask on a flight. There'll be no middle seating, and they've already explained that flight prices are going to go up, and that will trickle down to everything else. So it's how you adjust. Like, it's economics is very simple. It's just supply and demand. When you see retail stores closed, they're closed because there's no demand for that in this current market.
Mm-hmm.
But there are plenty of things that are in demand. Hence this webinar interview. Hence Zoom. So there are plenty of things in this current market that are in demand. That
Netflix is
right, and you have to be. A lot of us are resistant to change, but you have to be welcoming change,
Mm-hmm.
figuring out what do I need to do to refine my skill sets to really achieve success in this current market, not waiting for a government check to come in the mail, not waiting for the market to go quote unquote back, because it's not, and you'll get left behind. You won't be able to recover as quickly. So as much as you're defensive, you have to be offensive. And so in the 4-week program, that's what we're doing. We're teaching them basic skills, budgeting, and how to adapt in this market. And then also really teaching them about, once again, back to branding, back to finding the niche, finding the need. Because as much as you see companies on TV, we're now making masks, we're now doing this to attack COVID. No, they're business minded. They've had a meeting. They're like, we're not making money in this arena anymore. So we're gonna now, pivot, and we're gonna go in this arena because there's a huge demand for it. So as much as they're doing philanthropy, let's get it real. It's also because it makes sense business-wise. This is the demand, and the market is underserved. So let's service that market.
Well, look at the brand Carvana. They have these commercials. We'll deliver the car to you. And I spoke to a friend of mine who lives in Atlanta, and she's seeing all of these Carvana trucks delivering automobiles to people. I mean, that's a demand right there. They fill the vacuum.
Well, GM stopped making, since this pandemic, they haven't made one car, but they're doing all personal protective equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing out millions of them a day, keeping people employed. Like, if they're pivoting and they're like a blue chip company that's been around for over 100 years, then if they have to pivot, then you need to pivot. A lot of these companies are pivoting, and it's just smart business sense because they don't know the end date to this. And there's an underserved market, and it's a free for all right now. The regulations are very light, with our current federal government. I'm not, like I said, I don't want to get too much into politics, but they're not doing a great job overseeing things. So every state, every city, every municipality is left to fight for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you see, more governors having to speak out because they're not getting that federal support. So what that means, it's an open frenzy. It's an opportunity for you to penetrate the market and provide some level of service or product to that market, or just even work out logistics. There's plenty of people that are not even touching a mask, or not even touching a gown, or not even touching respirators, but they're just doing the logistics. Because once again, federally wise, we have a horrible relationship with China now, who's been our production people, who's been our manufacturing person. And now we have to find another angle. We have to find somebody else can do this, because China's intentionally slowing down production to the United States. The United States is intentionally making it difficult. So that conflict creates, now we need other sources of places that can do this manufacturing. And you see it happening now, because that's why all these places are doing all this manufacturing. If the situation wasn't happening the way it is with China right now, they were just making phone calls to China. China would be doing it, and they'd just be importing, but they don't have that option anymore. Hence why you see now what's happening, and everybody trying to do it themselves.
You know what I think is going to eventually happen? I think companies and countries are pivoting away from China because of this experience. They're going to start investing more in Africa. I recently, maybe about a month and a half ago, purchased stock in Square because of Jack Dorsey. He went to Africa last year, traveled through a few countries, came back and said, you know what, I'm moving to Africa next year. And also I purchased stock in Netflix because they're expanding their African content as well. And then also everyone's is watching Netflix right now.
Have you listened to our podcast, Who Wants to Be a Billionaire? We interviewed this billionaire gentleman, and he went to South Africa just as a vacation, and he came back just doing deals. And he said, as an African American, if you're making $10 in the United States, you'll make $1,000 in Africa, in South Africa, because what he's saying is that generation now, they're all first generation like wealth people that are earning money. Their families didn't know. They were all part, they're all part of post-apartheid. So you need the skills that you take for granted, they don't know, and you can teach it, and you can pass it on. And to even an African American, you'll go to one level, it's African American. Next level, it's African American. Next level, all the way up to the top, because it'll be somebody of your likeness that you'll be doing business with. And Africa wasn't where it was because of one thing: colonialism and logistics. Now, like, I mean, we're probably, in my day, to fly to Africa, we'd have to go to England. From England, we got to go to all the way further up to Sweden. Then we got to go to Germany, and then we got to go to Middle East. We finally hit Nigeria, and now they're recognizing, okay, the flights are changing. You're getting more direct flights. Hopefully the transportation of goods will be a lot more easier once the logistics arrives in a way that it arrived for China, which it should be easier, because you got to go around that to get from the United States to China, seawise. It's more difficult than just going across the Atlantic to Africa. So it's about getting logistics right and creating those strong ties, like A to B versus A, B, C, D, E, and F. You'll see how Africa will become like a force. Africa has all the natural resources. It's like it only makes sense. Everything there's so many, everything you use, I beg to differ. 90% of the stuff that you consume and use they have some kind of African content to it, from the copper, from the metal, from the titanium.
Energy also.
Energy, it comes from Africa, but their resources. And one thing I like too, and when you speak to Africans, people that live in Africa, or call them Africans, like, there's a different mindset now. There's no more, you don't see ads where they're like showing poverty or people malnutrition and trying to raise money, because they realize that doesn't work. Okay, it just doesn't work, and it didn't help grow Africa. When you see Africans talk about Africa now, the mindset, the marketing is totally different. It's more like, we're ready to do business. We have strong leader, we have strong infrastructure, which is great. There's no more feel sorry for us Africans.
No, there's more of a pride. And I'm seeing it also in entertainment. Jadena, he released that album last year, praising his Nigerian roots, 85 to Africa, a great project. Universal has a record label in Nigeria.
That mindset of credit card scams, bad Nigerians being scammers is fading away. Now it's like you're seeing the Nigerian culture, the music that they do, the movies that they do.
Yeah, all Queen Sono. Look at Queen Sono on Netflix. That was very popular and talked about on my Facebook timeline.
Exactly. So it's good.
But okay, well, thank you. Now, okay, really quickly, the program that you're doing now is...
See a cat's tail coming up. That's your cat?
That's my cat. Yes. She needs attention right now. That looks crazy. The program that you're doing now, it's about to wrap up. Now, are you planning on, will there be another program coming up?
We plan on doing our regular program in like probably early summer, late spring. It'll be a webinar again, 12 weeks.
Is there a fee associated?
There probably will be. It'll be really minor, probably like $5, $20 at most, just to cover some of our overhead. But it'll be very minimal, to be quite frank. I mean, we've done it for free in a lot of places. We used to get places giving it to us for free and so forth. But obviously now with this whole different environment, you got to keep moving forward. There's a little bit more expenses to it. So we're trying to minimize it, but it shouldn't be too much. I'm also I'm coming up with a show in the Caribbean. It'll be on a network over there called CBC Barbados.
Can you repeat
financial literacy? Called CBC Barbados.
Okay.
It'll be called Just Hustle. It'll be about financial literacy as well. And then we continue to do our podcast, which has been doing well. And we're trying to get on a network had a presentation with TV1, just trying to really push. I think, when I look at programming for African Americans, and what a compelling fact is to me, there's no show out there hosted by two African Americans that does not talk about entertainment or sports.
Hmm.
I mean, that to me is very sad. I think we're ready where two of us can host it and we can talk what we just talked about now, real estate. We can talk finance.
Hmm.
That we're only good at
You know,
investing. Yeah.
the future of Africa and why
Right.
companies are going over there.
Yeah. To know that there's no real programming. Yeah, they may bring us into an interview, but there's no programming hosted by two African Americans. It does not talk either about entertainment or sports. And I love sports. I grew up around sports, but it even irks my skin now to see us just arguing about these franchises that we have nothing to do with, arguing, and putting to light like these debates. And like, a guy told me a year when I first entered working on Wall Street, he said, knowing how many points Michael Jordan averaged a game is irrelevant. It's not helping you. Get rid of it. Knowing how many points, no matter how many touchdowns, Tom Brady made last year is useless information. Start reading the journal, start understanding markets, get away from like being obsessed with sports because it does nothing for you. And even went further to say, what's going to happen when you work on Wall Street? A lot of people, because you're athletic looking, you're Black, they're going to be comfortable and try to force you to talk about sports. Never talk about sports at the workplace. Force them to talk to you about something else beyond sports. And when you really took note of it, it was so remarkable how much they would just try to divert. And I'd be like, I don't play sports. Let's talk about the market.
Mm-hmm.
Because we tend to, as African American men, a lot of us like have all this information about this in the sports arena and entertainment, and it's useless information that really most of us can't apply to anything else. It doesn't help us grow ourselves, doesn't help us grow our brand. So, we have to make the conscious effort to focus our energy on other things. And as much as we know so much stats about players, we should know the insides and outs of companies, like you just mentioned. If we had all that information, how different would we look?
Right.
Right. Another thing I say, if everybody in our community had good credit, how different would our community look?
Yes.
So to see us still arguing on TV about sports, I was like, it kind of disturbs me because we should be arguing about stocks and other things and about real estate and about markets.
Ownership, like J-Lo and A-Rod purchasing the Mets. That's different.
Absolutely. But it was just there to sit there and debate and argue all day long, and we get, and I'm not telling you I don't listen to it, but I really discipline myself to how long I'll listen to it. I'll give myself a half hour at most, and I'll tune into other things.
But I'm glad that you and your partners have this podcast, because like I said, when I was listening to it yesterday, it was so enjoyable. And, I've noticed the reason why I'm doing this series is because people have this fear and dread surrounding.
We're on the same mission, and we need to support one another. That's what I think as well. I don't believe in competition. We're on the same mission, so let's just support each other.
Yeah, and the more wealthy and abundantly flowing our community is, and when I'm not just speaking to the Black community, I'm speaking to everyone, because everyone right now, a lot of people are suffering due to this pandemic. But if we all elevate ourselves financially, it all flows. I mean, if people are not making money right now, real estate is not selling. It's just not happening, Right. So like you, over the 16 years that I've been in this business, there's a lot of information that I've acquired that I want to give back as well,
Just share it, and you'll realize how much the universe will open up to you. Like, I just took it to myself just to share it openly. Like I said, I just got naked with it. And, opportunities, I was on the Breakfast Club. There's just opportunities keep presenting themselves.
That interview on the Breakfast Club was so powerful.
Thank you.
I was so proud of you and Borough President Adams. I mean, he was speaking it into existence when I am mayor of 2021. That was awesome. So now, if someone wants to get in touch with you to learn about your programs, can you tell us what website they would go to?
You can email me at financiallyclean, slynda, SLYNDA, at financiallyclean.com, or you can just follow me on Instagram, Financially Clean Shaun, SHAUN, and just send me as they say, the young people say, a DM.
I will also include all of your details below under the description box. I just want to thank you again, Sean. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Swift. I appreciate you as well. I love your artwork in the background, by the way.
Yes, Faith Ringgold. I got this at a local gallery, Richard Beaver's gallery on Marcus Garvey. I'm in Bedford-Stuyvesant, so.
I can tell your whole background looks Bedford-Stuyvesant.
Yes.
You look.
Yes, all of these colors.
Yeah, you're Bed-Stuy to the bone, I can tell.
But thank you. Happy Saturday. And
You
we'll
as well.
be in touch. Let's definitely keep in touch, Sean.
All right, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.